Alright, good morning everyone. Have a blessed day. So I am your Mapeh teacher for today. My name is Roberto Mapeh Almero. This time I'm going to voice over our topic. So now our objectives was analyze elements and principles of art in the production of arts and crafts inspired by the cultures of East Asia. So, early paintings often showed hunting scenes of men chasing various animals, such as horses, rhinoceros, lions, buffaloes, mammoths. These prehistoric paintings were drawn in the walls of the caves, blocks of the stone, and etc., and found out all over the world, including China. The history of Eastern painting is as old as the civilizations of China. It is historically comparable to Western painting. Eastern countries continued to influence each other's productions of arts over the centuries. The importance of aspects in East Asian paintings. First is landscape painting, was regarded as the highest form of Chinese painting. We also considered the three concepts of their arts, the nature, heaven, and humankind, or Yin Yang. Chinese society, basically agricultural, has always laid great stress on understanding the patterns of nature and living in accordance with it. Oriental artists often created landscapes rather than paintings with the human figures as subjects. So, ancient Chinese art. The first group consists of bronze ceremonial vessels, cast bronze sculptures used during rituals, example food and drink dispensers, incense burners. The second group is the Terracotta Army, the most famous body of Chinese sculpture, a collection of thousands of baked clay figures discovered in an emperor's tomb, or the terracotta, is an Italian for baked earth, example pottery. The army, whose figures exceed life-size, contains soldiers of every rank and various ethnicities. Next is as the gallery above illustrated, with some Chinese sculptures are fairly realistic, others are heavily stylized. Both approaches will flourish throughout the history of Chinese art. Great quantities of smooth Chinese sculptures have also survived from the ancient period onwards. So made from the usual range of materials, example, stone, clay, bone, and metal. The most famous Chinese sculptures materials is lead, used for all manner of ornaments and functional objects. So let's have. While sculpture is the chief surviving forms of ancient Chinese art, the oldest extant works of Chinese painting date to the late ancient period. These works, found mainly upon the walls of tombs, reveals that the essential style of Chinese painting had developed by this time. So let's proceed now in the East Asian Buddhist art. In South Asia, Buddhist art was executed in the South Asian styles of visual art, which features lightly clad, generously curved human bodies. In East Asia, Buddhist art was heavily modified by the East Asian style of visual art, which focuses on the lines rather than curves, volumes. The result is a stiffer appearance in which curves are subdued and liner detail that consists of thin, sharply defined lines, is enhanced. East Asian figures are typically more heavily clothed than their South Asian counterparts, since linear details is better suited to material than the human body. So Chinese painting. While sculptures is often considered the supreme art form of South Asia, paintings holds this title in East Asia. Most surviving Chinese painting dates from the medieval period onward. As noted earlier, the Tang or Song age, which covers most of the medieval period, is often considered the golden age of Chinese art. Subsequent artists imitate and expanded upon the victories of this golden age, allowing traditional Chinese art to flourish deep into the modern period. Chinese painting can be divided into three main types according to the subject matter. The first type is figure painting, in which one or more figures are the main subject. The vast majority of traditional visual art across the world is primarily concerned with figures. Chinese figure painting often depicts historical events or scenes from courtly life. So let's proceed now in the Chinese architecture. The central traditions of monumental Chinese architecture is known as a palace architecture, which despite the name was used for all sorts of large-scale buildings, example palaces, administrative buildings, or even in temples. Wood was the standard construction material. Consequently, only a fraction of Chinese palace architecture has weathered the centuries. The greatest collections of Chinese palace architectures is the Forbidden City, which served as the core of Chinese government under the Ming and Qing dynasty. The Ming and Qing period spans roughly from the end of the Middle Period to World War I. A vast complex featuring hundreds of buildings, the Forbidden City lies in the heart of Beijing, which has thrived as China's capital since the Ming Dynasty, the largest structures in the whole of Supreme Harmony, which housed important state functions. The Buddhists developed the pagoda designed by the elongating ancient stupa and fusing it with the palace architecture. Most pagodas served as Buddhist shrines, though some have been constructed for other purposes. The other special type is the Great Wall of China, composed of earth, stone, and bricks. The Great Wall is actually a complex wall throughout northern China that together stretch thousands of miles. This complex, which experienced phases of construction from late antiquity to the modern period, protected China from the nomadic tribes of the steppe. So let's proceed now in the Chinese sculpture. Chinese sculptures varies from fairly realistic works to fantastic stylizations, surrealism versus stylizations. As noted earlier, the earth's ancient Chinese sculpture survives mainly in the form of bronze, ceremonial vessels, and the figures of the Terracotta Army. From the medieval period onward, a greater abundance and variety of Chinese sculpture survives. Wonder groups of medieval or in modern Chinese sculpture is particularly famous. The statues of the Forbidden City provide a good representative collection. Note that the linear focus of Chinese painting is equally strong in sculpture. The Chinese ceramics. Chinese ceramics, the world's most celebrated traditional ceramics, may be those of China, see pottery types, an exceptional durable form of art. Examples have survived from every age of Chinese history, exhibiting a wide range of styles. Only the two most renowned styles are described here. Song ceramics produced during the Song dynasty, which generally feature simple shades and a single color, are considered the classical pinnacle of Chinese ceramics. In the 177 to 11. You are much renowned only by blue and white Ming ceramic, the most famous style to flourish under the Ming dynasty. So now let's proceed on the Japanese art. Painting is the prepared artistic expression in Japan, practiced by the amateurs and professionals alike. Ink and watercolor paintings were an outgrowth of calligraphy. Until modern times, the Japanese wrote with a brush rather than a pen. Oil painting was introduced when Japan came into contact with the West during the 16th century. Along with Western aesthetic concepts such as the use of perspective in landscapes, contemporary Japanese painters worked in all genres, including traditional inks and watercolor painting, classical oil painting, and modern media. Broadly speaking, forms of art that rise in China also flourished in Japan, including architecture, example palaces and temples. Painting example schools, murals, and screens. And sculptures example are bronze, wood, and clay. The styles of this art in Japan are generally rooted in Chinese models, yet have evolved into uniquely Japanese forms. The art of woodcut developed in only two regions of the world, the Europe and East Asia. Within the latter region, woodcut flourished primarily in Japan. Woodcut is the form of spring. An image is produced by carving a design into a face of wood and black, then coated the designs with ink and pressing it against a sheet. A Japanese woodcuts produced in either monochromed or eventually colored features both figure scenes and landscapes. Zemun's art, the first settlers of Japan. The Zemun people, see 11,000 to 300 BCE or before Christ. I don't know what is E. Named for the court markings that decorated the surfaces of their days. Clay vessels, rather, were nomadic hunter-gatherers who later practiced organized farming and built cities with substantial populations. They built simple houses of wood and thatch set into shallow earthen pits to provide warmth from the soil and crafted or lavishly decorated pottery storage vessels, the figurines called Virgo and crystal zeros. Yayao art. The Yayao peoples named for the district in Tokyo where remnants of their settlements first were found, arrived in Japan about 350 BC, bringing their knowledge of wetland rice cultivations, the manufactures of copper weapons and bronze bell or dukak, dotaku, rather, the world from kiln fire ceramic, dotaku, smelt from relatively thin bronze and richly decorated were probably used only for rituals. The oldest dotaku found date from the 2nd or 3rd century BCE, corresponding to the end of the Yayoi era. Historians believe that dotaku were used to pray for good harvest because they are decorated with animals such as the dragonfly, praying mantis, and spider that are natural enemies of insect pests that attack paddy fields. Now let's proceed on Kofun art. The third stage in Japanese prehistory, the Kofun or Ptolemy's period, named for the tombs, represent modifications of Yayoi culture attributable either to internal development or external force. In this period, diverse groups of people formed political alliances and coalesced into a nation. Typical artifacts are bronze, mirrors, symbols of political alliances, and clay sculptures called haniwa, which were erected outside the tombs. Azuka and Nara art. During the Azuka and Nara periods, so named because the seat of the Japanese government was located in the Azuka Valley from 552 to 710 and in the city of Nara until 784, the first significant introductions of Asian continental culture took place in Japan. The transmissions of Buddhism provided the initial impetus for contacts between China, Korea, and Japan. So at this moment, let's proceed on Korean arts. Korean arts and crafts, including fine arts and decorative visual arts over the centuries, folk painting, calligraphy, mulberry paper or hanji, riddles, also known as Sirato, the art resource of Korea through the dynasties. The Minhwa, Korean folk painting, are reflections of the commoners' hopes. An extraordinary, unconventional form of traditional Korean art, Minhwa illustrates the common people's freedom of expression and reveals their innermost thoughts and dreams. The folk painting of Korea, the artwork of the Kilmon people, Minhwa, from the bird and the flower paintings to the tiger and the dragon and the thin longevity symbols. So the calligraphy in Korea, the arts of writing, a cherished Korean art form that conveys the artist's emotions while illustrating the strength, purity, and perpetuity of this ancient tradition. Calligraphy in Korean is a visual art reflecting the Korean traditions of artistic writing in Hangul or Hanja. Read the day history. So the characters become art. In Asia, the act of giving a work of calligraphy created by one's hand to someone symbolizes the great respect and the artist has for that individuals and is considered a true gift of the heart. This is because in Asian cultures, calligraphy is not merely a technical exercise in handwriting, but an act of training and disciplining the mind. So that's all for our voiceover. So if you want to learn more about the topic, you may browse on this link for further information and for the activities and the quizzes. If you want to answer, just browse in this link or you may comment down below in the comment section so that I will be informed and surely I am willingly to answer all your questions. So don't be shy to ask. So if there's no questions at all, so that's all for today. Stay home, stay safe, be healthy everyone, and always wear your best mask. Goodbye everyone, and God bless us all. Thank you so much for listening and watching this video.